afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for your time and for being here today. At Esports, we have the pleasure to make a webinar with our friend, colleague, and future lecturer of the executive program in eSports management with Football Club Barcelona, Adam Whyte. Adam is a former sports lawyer who has worked with the likes of AS Roma, Sergio Agüero, Sevilla CF, Shakhtar Donetsk, among others. In 2016, after spending 7 years as a sports lawyer managing player contracts, transfers, and litigating before the Court of Arbitration for Sports, he transferred these professional legal skills to the beer-going eSports ecosystem. Using his own first-hand experience as a professional gamer in the Wild West of sports, Adam focused on digitizing contracts and automating payments for competitors with his company Edge and eSports organizations LDN United. Edge is a one-stop influencer management platform revolutionizing influencer marketing. Through LDN United, Adam helps young gamers achieve their goals while focusing on healthy living. Adam, thank you very much. And now it's your time to shine.
Thanks, mate. I really appreciate the introduction. It's very kind of you. It's really cool to be here and to speak with, well, I guess there's 15 of us in this, and maybe some people are going to watch this recorded afterwards. Yeah, indeed, my career at one point was in sports and the law, and it's actually through my career in sports and the law that I was fortunate enough to meet Adriana and Danny Pinto. And I've worked with them for about half a decade, which is 5 years. And they're really, really wonderful people. You know, they do exactly what they say they're going to do. And I suppose that's one of the biggest lessons I learned in my time of entrepreneurship. I'm still doing things. Fortunately, both my businesses, London United and Edge, are going to have an exit this year. In fact, London United has already been acquired last week by a Web3 gaming company called Ludus Gaming. And Edge is in negotiations with two companies, actually two buyers. So that's very nice. We didn't quite get the one-stop shop for influencer management. And because we decided to sell rather than continuing to raise. And that's because my personal passions have shifted a little bit. Indeed, there was a time when I was really into video games. I played a lot of Hearthstone, about 30,000 games in maybe 18 months time, which if you do the maths is a really concerning amount of time. Actually, it was probably very unhealthy. I wasn't living my best version of myself, but I did enter some tournaments and I met some professional gamers. And you know, I was not a professional by any means. I met other professional gamers. However, I did compete in tournaments for prize money, and I was amazed. I was like, wow, this is really cool that people are having the opportunity to play video games for money, because I really love when people fulfill their dreams and they're rewarded for it. And so, you know, when Adriana and Danny told me, okay, we're going to do this presentation, this talk, and we're going to title it "How to Make Money in Esports," I didn't know who the participants of this call would be. And so there was a bunch of different thought, like that can mean a lot of different things. One of the things it can mean is making money as a professional gamer. So, you know, getting really good at League of Legends and getting signed for a team and going on to win prize money. Another thing that can happen is that you start a career in esports. And so you work on the broadcasting side or the event side or the influencer management side, the marketing team, the legal team. And I guess, well, I don't guess, I know what Adriana and Danny and the rest of the team at It's Esports are building is a path to pro for, I wouldn't say professional gamers unless they haven't told me something, but more the business side of esports. And I'm excited about that because, you know, I think, well, I was really into traditional sports when I was growing up. I played a lot of basketball and I played a lot of baseball, not at a particularly high level. And I wonder what would have happened if esports was a thing when I was a kid. Because, you know, I suppose esports has become this global phenomenon because of the advent of first the internet. So you're moving from, you know, console and couch co-op and esports being like a LAN tournament to all of a sudden we can scale this with the internet. And then titles, you know, like Halo and Call of Duty, bringing that mass media to the first person genre, and then other titles being developed. And so I mean, many of you in this room will know these things because you're passionate about esports, you're passionate about the history of competitive video games in the same way that I would say I'm not, I don't hold the same passion that I once did. I still find it fascinating. But I live on a farm now, so but anyway, that I won't digress today. I really want to talk about, you know, the prospective career opportunities in esports. And I guess, yeah, like what I tend to do these days is speak to my own path because of course I don't know what other people do with their time, and I don't purport to know how they ought to spend it. I really enjoy sharing what I've learned in my career, and so I suppose, you know, we've had a little introduction, but maybe to delve into a little bit of my career and why I'm speaking to you guys today. I certainly I saw the invites list and I was a little bit intimidated yesterday. I saw people from Twitch and maybe even Riot Games or Blizzard, but there was a bunch of AAA brands in there, and I kind of thought to myself, why are you telling these people how to make money with esports? Because that's not, I don't know, you know, compared to you at all. You know, I think in this instance, I'm largely academic in my understanding and appreciation of how to make money in esports. Now, it's not entirely academic. I have, of course, owned a grassroots esports team that's done sponsorship deals with HyperX and has a gaming center in London, and has just been acquired. So I suppose that's one other way to make money in esports is you're not on the talent side, you're not on the business execution side, you're in the industry stakeholding side, you're your own part of the business, and I suppose venture capital would be a part of that ecosystem. But anyway, yeah, like I would love to share a little bit of my career trajectory with you because it might help to frame today's conversation, which when I, you know, was approached by Danny and Adri about this, and we talked about, well, how to make money in the esports field, because that's what people want to know. You know, I think in the first instance, like for the students who are watching this or the prospective students who are watching this, you're fascinated with video games, I presume, or I suppose I got into to esports because I'm fascinated with video games, and so I would have loved to have had an educational facility where they would package the information necessary for my career development, or maybe not necessary, but you know, giving you a big head start in terms of that base level of knowledge. And probably something which doesn't get talked about too much is how the courses are delivered in terms of the practical side of things. And so, you know, I'm trying to be coherent in my stream of thought. So when I was qualifying to be a lawyer, I did a master's program in international sports law, and it condensed all of my materials, and that led to a 6-year career as a sports lawyer, where I worked with some of the biggest football teams in the world. So AS Roma and Man City and Sevilla and Tottenham Hotspur. And I represented Lance Armstrong's doctor for a time before Lance, you know, said that he did it. And so, you know, I guess the opportunity for students is with this program is that it can be your path to pro. It can be your ability to earn. And on the other side, for the lecturers, it's an opportunity for you to get to know young talent. It's an opportunity for you to hone your skills, like when you're giving a talk or when you're lecturing to students for 4 hours or 8 hours. You know, you need to be prepared because they're going to be prepared. They're going to have questions for you. And so I think there's quite a mutual benefit for the two parties. You know, both are learning, one through teaching and one through sort of the osmosis and the experience, the practical side of things. And the teachers, are also finding talent, and the students are getting that sort of career entry point. And that's what everyone wants to know when they're super passionate about video games, and perhaps I don't know, they're telling their mom and their dad, like, I really want to be working in video games, which, isn't really a thing, or I want to be working in esports. And so I think programs like this one, and this one indeed, help to, give that sort of, well, if you come here and you study hard, and you'll get to meet these professionals at Twitch, at Blizzard Activision, at startups, at grassroots esports organizations, at, even VC that is looking at this space as an investment opportunity. And so, yeah, I'm always excited to be asked to speak. I love forming the connection with the students themselves. I suppose after my time as a sports lawyer, yes, I did the entrepreneur thing. I moved to London, and I suppose I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I was quite depressed at the time. And so I played a lot of video games during my second master's degree in business. And I found Hearthstone, and I found it really fascinating that these young kids, my first client was a 15-year-old kid, and he became my client because he was asked to sign a contract. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. Like, we're in I don't know what that was then, 2015, something like that. We're in 2015, and like, there's a pro esports organization who are offering a 15-year-old kid a contract and asking him to sign. That's quite a discrepancy between, the sort of the eyeballs and the money that are looking at this ecosystem, and the professionalism attached to it. And I suppose you show, anything to a carpenter, and he'll tell you he's got a hammer for that nail. And I was a sports lawyer, and so I thought, well, maybe the esports ecosystem could use not regulation, I don't want to say that, but like standardization to protect the stakeholders, especially because there's very young people involved with professional video games. And so, yeah, that kind of became my path into this whole space. First through sports law and working with, the rights holders, but also the commercial rights holders, and then having a vague understanding. I mean, nobody has a sophisticated understanding of everything, for sure, and maybe not even of anything. So I did my best to understand the commercial side of traditional sports. And yes, I worked on a broadcast deal with La Liga, and I worked on a couple of commercial deals with Villarreal for a team. And I guess that became a natural segue for me into esports. So it was actually through serendipity. I met this pro gamer, George, at a tournament, and I met his father then at the pub in London. And, we signed a contract, and we did that whole funny esports agent thing. And yeah, then I was connecting gamers to teams, but more frequently connecting gamers to brands. So the aforementioned HyperX, and who else? Vodafone 3. And I guess at this time I also got involved in the event side of esports. So I started a company with a woman called Mags, who has a football background as well, called eStars. And then I was representing some gamers, and I also was a stakeholder in this esports tournament, which was, I guess the idea was that we were working with the football teams in Ireland to congregate clubs, the football clubs of Ireland. So Shamrock Rovers and Donegal and Derry City and what have you. They would all host esports events, so competitive gaming tournaments at their football stadiums. And then on a Wednesday night, when the stadium would typically be empty, we had, 150 kids and their families would come down and try out for the League of Legends team. And I think it was sponsored by a pizza company, maybe 4-Star Pizza, like Domino's. So I guess, that really also helped to give me some oversight into, okay, so it's not just kids competing for prize money. Well, I say kids, professional gamers competing for prize money. There's also a whole other arm to this, which is it's an events business. And so I realized, okay, so there's a talent side, and all of the subsequent arms of which I was benefiting from. You know, I became a talent manager, so 20% on commercial deals, 10% on if the gamer would go to a professional team, and that goes. I mean, being very transparent with the terms. Those are my terms, but everyone has their own thing. And then I also became sort of like a very small stakeholder in an events company. And that was cool because then I got to know some of the publishers. We spoke a lot with Riot Games in Ireland, and yeah, organizing that was quite a fun thing as well. Like, okay, so what game are we going to play? And then learning about the various audiences. So FIFA commands a certain audience, it's PlayStation and it's Xbox, and so therefore the streaming of it is different. It's also not a team game, so the numbers are lower. It's also it's a digital version of a physical activity. So there's an argument to be, there's an argument that people don't really care that much about. Something which you can do in real life. They prefer to watch the real life version. There's an argument. I'm not sure if it stands true. And and then shooter games. I think Counter-Strike was that was one that we were really looking at because it's quite easy to get a license for it, or at least it was. We found, and when we wanted to get some of the talent to come, so we asked, I think it was Cloud9, how much their B team would cost to fly in and do like an exhibition before the final or something. And we found out, well, that's quite expensive. Very like mind-blowingly expensive. It was way more than I ever thought it could be. And so that also, then the sponsors who we were speaking to, so Vodafone, I think, and Three Mobile, it was called Three Ireland Sea Stars. They ended up being the flagship sponsor, the headline sponsor, and we did a multi-year deal with them. So the next year we did Fortnite in the UK. But yeah, obviously they were not so keen on a game that was terrorist versus counter-terrorist. So that was another really interesting experience about, okay, well, how are we making money out of this thing? And I suppose it was at that time that I started, the light switch went on, and it was like, oh shit, this is going to be really big, because the reason why sports marketing sponsorships exist is because, well, I was talking about this last week in a class. I wish we could do like like a back and forth, but the nature of today's session is I'm going to be speaking. So why do brands sponsor sports assets, properties, gamer or players and teams and leagues? Why is it the Barclays Premier League? And it's reach. And there's also a particular thing about sports, which is that it's also associated with excellence typically. So to sponsor Manchester United or Arsenal, or at least before Arsenal, maybe not anymore, it costs a premium because they win. And so you're then associated with, like, I don't know, being better or something. So sports marketing spot. And the other thing is, sports typically was the most expensive part of television, right? The live sport is the most engaged with and watched activity. There's something about something happening at that time that attracts people's energy and attention. We could go into that as well, but it's not really today's focus. So yeah, where was I going with that? Right. So the esports sponsorships, that was I think that was now 2017 or maybe 16 that this started. And yeah, learning, okay, so the reason why this is going to be huge is because millions and millions of people are watching this. Twitch is blowing up. YouTube gaming is blowing up. Like, people can't get enough gaming content. And then I thought back to me as a little boy, and I thought, well, you really liked playing Legend of Zelda and Halo and GoldenEye and Super Mario. And so if there was a platform like Twitch where you could have been wacky and acted in front of the camera, kind of like I'm doing now, would you have done that? And I think almost certainly yes. And also, I'm a very competitive person typically. So would I have played for my school Super Smash Brothers team if there was a path of sort of excellence, if there was a competitive road? Probably. I think almost definitely, because I certainly wasn't that good at basketball or baseball, and so maybe that would have been a more viable career path for me. And so yeah, that the light switch went on, and I think the rationale for that as well is the memories that you form when you're younger are much stronger than the ones when you're older. You know, it's something like the events, they degrade in their impact on your life as you know, as you pass through it. And so when you're like 7 or 8 or 9 and you watch Cloud9 win the League of Legends World Championships and you're a League of Legends player and you can stream tomorrow and you can play on your team in school, wow, that's going to form some very strong identities and personalities in this esports path. And so that was the light switch moment. I was looking around this stadium of like, this is at the final of this E-Stars event. There was, I don't know, 5,000, 6,000 people there or something. And I was like, shit, this is going to be huge. Like because these are all kids now. Well, when they're 40 and they have, you know, disposable income and they've been supporting a team their whole life or a few teams, well, I think this, and also they can do like micro payments online and metaverse gateways. Like this is going to be huge. And yeah, I think that what did I learn after that, after starting this league? And well, I suppose then I moved into the world of influencer marketing because what also became apparent to me was that as big as esports was going to get, I also believe there's been a fundamental shift in the temperament of people, in that they're slightly less tribal. And because of esports' global nature, there aren't these like massive rivalries where there's physicality. And it's also online. And so I thought, you know, you go to an esports event like ESL One. Yeah, I suppose going to this was quite informative. And I saw somebody cheering for, I don't know if it was Optic Gaming, and then the next match going completely nuts for Fnatic as well. And then when his team got knocked out, Optic, I think he decided whoever knocked them out, he was going to support. And it's kind of the nature of the ticket, like you pay for the whole day. But it's also indicative of that, you know, there's less of this sort of absolute domineering rivalry. And it's, well, you even see it with the players as well today. Like on a football pitch or in an esports arena, it's the same. They're humbly gracious with each other. They're taking selfies. They're swapping shirts. You know, they're having a good time. And because I guess what they've realized, rightly so, is that it's them against themselves, and they have all succeeded in becoming professionals, and so they're winning. And the more important thing is their livelihood and their family and their body and their health and their, you know, their mental well-being. And so this whole sort of like, let's smash each other and, you know, the fans and the teams, I don't think that's going to happen anymore. And so I guess well, you know, it's not even that I don't think that's going to happen. The evidence suggests very clearly that that sort of thing is degrading. And so then I kind of realized, well, we're probably going to see less of this sort of hyper competitive esports thing and more of a cross collaborative content pollination process. So, which is very sort of strange way of saying famous people are going to play together with professionals. And yeah, and then I guess maybe it's 2020 or 2019, Drake and Ninja played together, maybe even 2018. And that was quite a, you know, I was working now for an influencer agency, and I was the head of gaming and esports there. And so we were approaching brands and asking them for esports and gaming activations with streamers. You know, we'll launch your product to a gaming audience. And, you know, largely it went very well. And when the Travis Scott and Drake thing happened, then it was like, well, gaming is not only a subculture, and esports is not only like, you know, sports for geeks. I don't like that doesn't resonate with me, but there was a narrative of that's the case. You know, if you can't make the high school basketball team or baseball team or soccer team, then you're going to go play for the League of Legends team. It's not true, by the way. I just want that to be clear. But that there was a narrative around that, and now Travis Scott and Drake and Ninja are playing together, and all of a sudden, gaming's the coolest thing in the world. And then I was like, well, you know what? I think that along with esports, content creation is going to be, you know, streaming, influencing, not influencing, but creating on TikTok and Twitter and what have you, that is going to be really, really big. Because if I'm a gamer and I know somebody else is really good at gaming, then I'm going to follow them because they're going to help me get better at the thing that I love. And so if they tell me to use something that has helped them, it's very likely that I'm going to trust them. And like all of the evidence suggests that that's the case. And it makes sense, you know, if you walk past a billboard and you see this actor who's smiling and holding toothpaste, and you're like, I never saw that person before, but I don't really believe anything they say because that's obviously an ad. Even if your favorite content creator is doing what is quite obviously an ad, well, you follow them anyway, and so you want their career to be supported. So effectively, by buying those products, that you also believe them and you trust that they're not going to promote crap to you. Because if they do, then you're going to stop following them, and that's not in, well, I suppose, either of your interests. So yeah, I guess my deduction at the time was esports is going to be big and influencers is going to be even bigger. And so when we started Edge, yeah, we had these ambitions to create a contracts platform. As I was saying before, I had been working with gamers and a few teams and doing contracts for them. I had practiced law, so it made sense. And I also realized very quickly that many esports teams don't have a lot of money. And so asking them to do player contracts for, you know, 2.5 grand a pop, it's going to be tough because many of them, you know, they would rather pay their whole team a month's salary, and it makes sense to me as well. So we pivoted into observing gamer data, and later then observing social data, so Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and producing like analytics dashboards and results. Because, right, how do you make money in esports? And it's brands, right? It's brand. Ultimately, it's all coming from the brands. You know, the traditional game publishers, they might, Epic Games will throw 100 million into a pot for the Fortnite prize money. It's marketing spend, right? It's designed to keep players retained. And yes, it's giving money to the community, and that is a way to make money in esports for sure. And through owning eStars and then later, or being a part of eStars and later being a part of London United, realizing, oh, what you're doing here is you're selling eyeballs and access to an audience to brands. Okay, well, that makes sense. And that started to, I think when that moment dawned, it started to help me formulate, you know, my thesis and start to give Edge real direction. And we were able to successfully, you know, raise some money off the back of that, and as did London United. And we both grew slowly. I don't want to make any false claims or give them the wrong impressions. Like, neither of them have been the home run that I would have hoped for, you know. But that's okay. The experience was incredible. Like, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was really, you know, I was always a gamer, and I set my mind out to work in gaming and to create something of value for someone and to make some money. And we did. So that feels good to have done what I wanted to do. And I guess now with the next chapter, I suppose part of my life and contribution to the world, if you will, is sharing some of that knowledge of how to do it and how to actually make money. And so just yesterday, actually, I gave a course to a university in England, and we talked about how to actually be a content creator and how to actually ask somebody for money for your work, and how to actually invoice. Because I think what I love about this program is that increasingly, you know, I was saying to the guys yesterday, like, I studied at law school in Ireland, and I thought, like, okay, well, if I study all the materials and I do the reading list and then I get good marks, then there's a magic door at the end of this, and I open it up and there's a job behind, which is not true at all. Quite the opposite, actually, I would say. Like, the more time you're spending, you know, learning information that you are ultimately not going to use, well, you're just costing your future self an opportunity to have learned something more relevant and my experience with this program, working with these guys has been, let's teach the students stuff that's actually useful. And in doing so, I think it also helps the professors to identify, like, is this person competent to do something really quite professional and arduous? And so, I working with these two before, I met staff that then went on to work at Edge. So one of them is a dear friend of mine, Zahi, and his work in class was very evidently going to, he made the very direct impression to me that, okay, this guy really wants it. And we ended up getting him a visa for the UK. He still lives there. So yeah, like that, there was some lives being changed. So yeah, and I guess for today's talk, like I didn't know how, I didn't know who you guys are going to be. I didn't know if we're going to have, as I said before, very senior people in business and executives who are looking at this as as an opportunity maybe to share some of their knowledge. And I didn't know if it was going to be a bunch of students. And so I wanted to share a little bit about my career path. And I also wanted to share about some of the things which were particularly, I would say, inspiring. Yeah, because ultimately that's the other thing, is how to make money in anything, to some extent, is to do what you love. Because if you really love it, then you can't be beat. You won't stop until it's done. And so I think I learned that in 2020 for the first time. So after having had a team and a tournament and worked with the talent themselves, COVID came, and was terrible. And so I was sitting there, like, I don't know, on the 17th of March 2020, and I said to my partner at the time, like, I don't feel very well. I feel quite sad to be locked inside here. And I bet you that I'm not the only person that's feeling this way. And thank goodness we have video games to keep us, sort of entertained. Although at that time, the amount of gaming was like numbing me. So I didn't feel good about it. However, I did realize that, we're probably not going to be the only people that are feeling this way. And so I sent out a few WhatsApp messages to some people who also work in gaming and esports, people at the Esports Insider, at ESL, at Facebook, at Barclays Bank, at Ubisoft. And all of a sudden, this little WhatsApp group got created. This was, the 17th of March was the first email that I sent. And I said, hey guys, like, we all work in gaming and esports. We have an opportunity to do something kind of interesting and cool for some folks that are stuck at home. Let's do like an event, like a live aid for gaming. We'll do a 24-hour stream. And I'm just seeing somebody's consider your background. Cool. I will answer your question after I tell my anecdote about this beautiful event, if that's okay, Nishant. Anyway, look, we created something called Yana. You are not alone. You can still look it up online. It's yana.gg. And we had all these amazing partners: Facebook, Ubisoft, Barclays Bank, Premier League Rugby, Excel Esports. Gosh, I can't even remember who else was there. The Children's Society. And we hosted a really awesome event. I think 3.5 million people commented or posted about, the various hashtags associated with the campaign. So the idea was on the 2nd of May to bring together as many people as possible around gaming. We had a 20 hours of content starting in Thailand and then Vietnam, and then going across the globe. So we had streamers, we had League of Legends matchups, Valorant, Hearthstone, all sorts of stuff. It was really cool. I can't remember. Oh, we had a cycling race, Zwift. And so there was a congregation of all these sponsors that were donating to charity and what have you. And it was really, really cool to realize that all of us, not all of us, had another job. And in 7 weeks' time, we were able to put together a 20-hour stream for millions of people to watch with Formula E were another partner. They're like Formula One. So we had loads and loads of viewers. And yeah, we didn't make money. It was all given to charity, but we did make quite a bit. And so I learned, I guess, how to make money through doing something that you really loved, because I didn't really care about the commercial deals that I was signing at all. What I cared about was on the 2nd of May, millions of people are going to be playing video games and thinking, I'm not alone doing this. There's other people out there. This is going to be over soon. And yeah, I feel really good about that. So that was sort of my apart from the various verticals of being talent or supporting the talent, being a team or a tournament organizer and appeasing brands, being a game publisher or being a VC, an investor in the ecosystem. There's also the Web3 thing, which we can talk about after. I'm going to answer Nishan's question. But really, before I, without getting into the specific verticals that don't really matter, what really matters is sitting with your own thoughts and your own soul and asking yourself, what do you want to do with your time on this planet? And if it is esports, great, you're going to figure out how to make the money because you do something that you're passionate about and other people will feel that energy and that passion. And so that's how you make money in esports, or that's how you make money in anything, I think, is just doing something that you love. Because the other thing is, how much money do you want to make? Because if you really want to get rich, esports is not the path, frankly. You can still make money and you could get rich, but it's not the fastest way or the easiest way to be rich in the capital sense. And if you love gaming and you love esports and you love community and you love online and Discord and what have you, then you will be wealthy in the sense of your experience. And so the money will come and you'll figure it out as long as you figure out what you want to do. And yeah, okay, so Nishant, considering your background as an sports lawyer, then as an entrepreneur, what are the gaps you've identified in the field of unregulated esports industry? That's quite a question. That's quite a good question, I suppose. The gaps. Well, so like, of course, I can only speak to my own personal experience, and I don't want to speak in a disparaging way towards my peers because everyone's doing the best with the tools and resources that are presented to them. One of the big issues I have spotted in the unregulated esports industry is bullshit, and and that there's a lot of people who are saying that they have competencies that they do not have. It doesn't matter that you really like League of Legends and that you've played 13 years of Dota 2 and that you've got all of the Ultimate Team players in FIFA. That's great if you want to be a pro gamer. If you want to work in esports, that might make you, it might be okay then to write content about esports, but the people purporting to be lawyers and agents, people purporting to do commercial deals, people purporting to run a team and not paying their players, that's a big thing. Like I was involved in an event once where none of the gamers got paid, and that was really, really crappy to be a part of. That then the publisher isn't very happy either. So yeah, the professionalism is just the level of professionalism. It really needs an upgrade, and I think because it's quite a young industry, and because people are trying to make a name for themselves, there's a lot of ego and there's a lot of bullshit. And so, yeah, that's one of the gaps that I would have identified. Like earlier, I also want to have the proviso that like since 2020, I haven't really done very much in esports. I've been sort of doing other things basically. So I'm sure it's come on a long way, but when I worked with teams, a few teams, the player contracts were really unbalanced. So, big transfer fees, low salaries, hefty obligations on the players, lots of IP and IP and image rights ownerships for the teams. But it's to be expected. The teams aren't really making that much money either, so they need to protect themselves as best as they can. Yeah, that's cool. I got a question asked. I guess we've got 15 minutes left, so I would love to open the floor up to any questions. I see there's a lot of, I think you guys are probably students, many of you. So no problem, Nishant. No problem at all. You know what I would also say on the more the content creator side is that just a general immaturity about your obligations towards the sponsors and towards the the people that are paying for it. That was definitely that was a thing, like recognizing that, hey man, you've got to do your thing as well. But yeah, are there any other questions from the crew, or will I wrap up with how did my younger self feel having started a career in esports? And yeah, I mean, man, it was like a bit of a dream come true, especially the London United stuff, because what happened there, by the way, for the anonymous attendee, I've seen your question and I will respond to you. If you want, you can check out this website. This was quite a good way. This was quite a good way. We did this, and that was a really, really great activation. Estars.pro. Do you think esports will become part of the Olympics? Okay, so yeah, I mean, with London United, I was working at an agency called the Goat Agency, which is in a particular area in London. And after work, I was going to networking events at Fnatic's office. And it was really cool to be like, oh, I'm working at an influencer agency as an esports and gaming person and going to Fnatic's office for networking. And then I would go to the Red Bull Gaming Center. And every day I would see it was full of kids. And I was like, wow, all these kids, imagine if they had an esports team that they could play for. And then starting London United and actually giving a lecture with some students, and we helped to sort of build the company org chart, and then starting it in 2019, and then now it's been acquired. Yeah, like there's a level of, I'm happy that I have spent the time that I have doing those things, because a younger version of myself would be delighted. As you know, Francisco, I've changed quite a bit, so I'm less passionate about that now, but that, as you said, I'd speak candidly and transparently. Like esports was my life. Now I'm into farming and permaculture and stuff. So I still think it's cool. Like I still think it's interesting, but I don't play video games anymore, really. So okay. Anonymous attendee. Wow, there's so many questions now. This is cool. All right, you represent a semi-pro football club. Best strategy for you guys to get into esports: start creating content with your players and see if it resonates with your younger audience. Build a channel for your younger audience to connect with you. Discord or Twitch. I think Twitch is probably best. I don't know what your broadcasting deal is. You might broadcast your matches to Twitch. You might do player interviews yourselves and decentralize your content. You can send me a connection request on LinkedIn and I'm happy to speak with you about this. Yeah, so you can connect with me. It's linked. That's why. Yeah. Okay, cool. More questions. Do I think esports will be part of the Olympics? No, I don't. I think that it's owned by, I mean, esports isn't a thing. It's just a title. It's like sports isn't a thing. The various esports are owned by people. So Riot Games would have to allow for the Olympic Committee they'd have to allow the Olympics to use the IP. The Olympics are really about physicality and competition. I think that the ethos of the two entities is diametrically opposed. So I don't think so. But you never know. Like, could I see Street Fighter in the Olympics? Maybe, maybe. Yeah, it's a money thing. Whoever's going to pay the publishers enough money. It's the Olympic Committee. But I think the issue right now is the Olympics are probably thinking of the publishers. You want to be in the Olympics. Other people are going to see your games. You have to pay us. And I think the publishers are like, esports doesn't make us enough money. We don't care. So I don't know though. But by the way, I have absolutely no idea. I'm just making that up. So your advice for esports professionals from countries where the infrastructure industry is not well developed. How can such people gain opportunities to work at the top level? I think it's the same for anyone who is trying to make a name for themselves anywhere. There are varying levels of difficulty and boundaries that prohibit your entry. It is largely about focusing the resources and energy that you have on a destination, on a goal, sticking to that, being consistent. So there's no one size fits all. There's absolutely no key. I don't know what's worked for me. Networking, like, and I think creating content on LinkedIn helped. And I think showing up, being myself, like being honest with what I can do and what I can't do and what I want to do. Like I want to lecture at this university, and so when I lecture, I show up and I do a good job because I really care. If I was doing something else that I didn't care about, I don't want to say anything because I wouldn't agree to do it if I didn't want to do it, but I would be less present. And I think through presence, you really exercise your magic. So yeah, be consistent, like, and focus on a goal. Like I want to be there. So every day showing up for yourself. I'm going to go there. I'm going there. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm making little efforts, and all of a sudden things fall into place, I find. How do I think esports can be a part of Web3 and the metaverse? Well, okay, so first of all, the metaverse is already a thing, and it's really poorly defined. People think that Decentraland and Sandbox and even Fortnite and Roblox are metaverses. Fine, that's one way to define it. That isn't what it is. Metaverse is immersive reality, and so we already have it in the form of Instagram. Your digital identity, your avatar, your LinkedIn profile mixed with your Facebook, mixed with your blog, that's your metaverse identity. It's your digital copy, and it goes with you around places. In the future, that will be an interoperable, integrated experience. And so that then leads to the next part, which is how do you integrate esports into that? Well, it's very well positioned to, like, imagine watching the Overwatch League, but you're in the game and you're watching the players jumping over you and stuff. Well, that would be possible in the metaverse, in the Blizzard metaverse, if you will. Web3 is a different thing. So NFTs and cryptocurrency, enabling your community to become creators on your behalf. We're already seeing some of the teams do some things. 100 Thieves did like an NFT drop. Didn't mean anything. You just minted a thing. Nice press for them. I guess in the future you'll have like creator passes. So if you want to play for, or if you want to create content for Fnatic, you mint a pass. You'll have fan tokens. So encouraging you to participate in their ecosystem, attend events, promote their content, be an influencer for them, be a community ambassador, getting rewarded with tokens and then interchanging those within the ecosystem to build up loyalty and what have you. It's all the same stuff that the Web2 world has, or that our world has. It's just got a blockchain spin on it. If any of you are like blockchain or NFT skeptics, like really question which part of you is thinking that it's a scam. I guarantee it's your ego. Like Web3 is definitely going to stay. It's not going to be gone. So you would be well served to do as much homework and research into it as possible, because the capacities for NFTs is like NFTs are digital collectibles. They're a receipt that's living. It comes in your wallet with you. You go to places, and imagine if every time you went to a restaurant, or every time you went to a cinema, or every time you went to Fnatic's website, you would benefit from holding these tokens, and they were unique to you. That's how that works. Obviously, that has a lot of technological applications and implications. So it's not pictures of monkeys. That's not what NFTs are. They're an underlying tech stack which is set to fundamentally change a lot of things. And if you look at like Starbucks, Coca-Cola, Disney, Porsche, Volkswagen, they all have Web3 and NFT teams and token projects of some nature and degree. And so yeah, I recommend doing some research on that because it's gonna stay. I think the importance of education regarding the materials that you are using in whatever you do is extremely important. Like you have to know what you're talking about. And so if you want to learn about esports, it is a very good way to focus your attention on that particular topic. And the secondary benefit, which I think is even more important, is the extending of your network into an industry which you previously had no access to. So you're not gonna meet people from ESL or Ride or G2 or Edge walking down the street. You come to this forum and then your network improves. Yeah, like so being present with the materials and being active with the networking is really, really, really big opportunity. Like my whole career started because of a program like this. So, and I think I've done okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Adam, once again. Just a quick reminder, Adam will be a lecturer in the executive program in the eSports management with Football Club Barcelona that it is sports. It's launching their first edition. And for everyone who